Welcome, friends, to another edition of the Cyber Mettle podcast. I am excited about this one, Alyson. I know I say that a lot, but I get to talk to cool people on this thing. So the platform is working. The master plan is coming to fruition. That's all I've ever wanted to do here is
Insert
talk.
evil laugh.
Exactly. We'll do it in post-prod, right? We'll do a little, maybe like a hairless cat or something. But so exactly, right? Man, I was raised on Dr. Claw. That's my second Dr. Claw reference today from Inspector Gadget. Wild. It's a good day where I get to mention Penny and the notebook, right? The precursor to the tablet.
Why do I
Twice.
know exactly what you're talking
1,000%. This is some wild business here. So anyway, right, moving on there. Excited
Theme song
to have,
here, right?
Exactly, right? And the trench coat and the little, oh, man, that's going to be stuck in my
The
head.
helicopter hat.
Later,
I mean, come on.
we're definitely, I'm finding where that's streaming, and my baby is watching one episode today. That is my promise to the internet sphere there. But again, excited to be on here. We have a pretty awesome guest who's going to be talking about, I think, some pretty awesome and timely concepts here. Literally, maybe like 60% of my meetings today were about what he's going to cover. So I'm very excited to pick his brain here. But before that, let's get our ducks in a row. I'm joined by the inimitable Alyson Lederman. Alyson.
Well, hi there, everyone. Just as our friendly disclaimer, as we always do, though I'm a lawyer and Omar and Dan are cyber experts, they are not your cyber experts, and I'm not your lawyer for the purpose of the podcast. But that being said, we're here to share information, our experience, wisdom, well-worn and otherwise, so that you don't have to make those same mistakes and you can learn from what we've learned from and take that into your business and into your lives and ask better questions and better decisions. So with that, we would love to introduce you today to Dan Shallom. He is a cybersecurity researcher and executive with over 10 years of hands-on experience across application security, infrastructure, cloud, mobile, and offensive security research. His core expertise is web application security, where he's focused on vulnerability discovery, penetration testing, and leading complex security assessments. Dan is currently building an agentic web application pen testing engine designed to help security teams better explore attack surfaces, validate vulnerabilities, and keep human judgment in control when using this AI-powered testing. We would like to welcome Dan. Yay!
Thank you, guys.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to join us today and what you want to talk about.
Sure. Great intro, and happy to be here. I'm pretty excited. So I wanted actually to discuss about, first of all, that how the traditional pen testing and traditional security assessment versus agentic AI-assisted assessments work. The difference between these two assessments, traditional PT is an area that I came from. I've spent years in this domain, both as a researcher and also as an executive. And it's amazing. Traditional PT consists of security teams with like great, highly skilled professional doing a lot of types of assessments, whether it is web app, mobile, infrastructure, you name it. And in the end, these highly skilled professional bring a lot of experience to the table and manage to tackle different challenges and find vulnerabilities, expose risks, and so on. But also at its base, there are multiple gaps that are clear that AI can solve nowadays. And talking about these differences and talking about how AI can approach these gaps, I think is something that is relevant to the audience, and it can also be a wake-up call to a lot of security teams out there, CISOs, and relevant people in the industry. So as you mentioned, I'm working on a cybersecurity platform that at its base is AI-powered, and I managed to I reached several conclusions that in my time that consistency and also coverage are primary issues in this world, because a lot of like security teams, individuals try to cover many aspects of the web application or mobile application and infrastructure, but it's very hard, very challenging to do it. at scale, because when you have a big application in front of you and you have a time frame that you need to tackle everything and deliver everything and wrap everything in a report, it's very challenging to do everything and cover all aspects of the application while still being consistent. And these are the primary gaps that AI can and, as a matter of fact, is able to approach. Let's take web applications for as use case. I mean, but we can. It is true for every type of application out there. Web application are complex. Most of them are very dynamic. Each and every web app behaves differently from one another because there are different APIs, different business logic, different workflows, integrations, and so on. And in order to really cover everything, you need to have a very systematic kind of like approach. When you get access to the application, you need to identify and expose all of the attack surfaces, and using security teams that, again, super with highly skilled professional and everything, still it's an issue and it's a challenge because an engagement is time limited, and every researcher thinks differently. Every researcher has different mindset, different way of thinking, and again, on top of that, the time limitation also makes things more complicated. And AI can basically keeps the same line of methodology while approaching these issues, because in the end, AI it can be used in an engine to spot a lot of vulnerabilities and a lot of risks, and basically expose the attack surface and do it using complex reasoning, something that can take weeks or even months for like security teams that do it manually. And AI can do it better in a relatively shorter time frame. So that's, I would say, one of the strengths that the AI era brings to the table. But of course, there are also risks and also bad ways to implement AI. So, I mean, having said that, when you look at a certain UI or certain interface, so that UI is just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath, there are a lot of things that are not visible, and a lot of things that happen in the underlying engine behind the scenes, whether we are talking about shadow IT, shadow routes, certain user journeys that you need to reproduce, you need to trigger according to a specific order of the flow. And I mean, every application wants you to, or the developers of the application wants you to take you to a certain flow within the application. And AI can really try to think of interesting ways of breaking these flows and making sure that, not making sure, but breaking these flows and trying to come up with methods that will, in a way, yield some findings. And this is something that AI is very good at, but I've seen many implementations out there of AI with bad guardrails that was implemented on multiple levels, meaning that there are multiple types of guardrails. Some of them are in the application level, some of them are in the tool level, model level, and so on. And in order to have the most comprehensive, robust solution in terms of how the AI, how the LLM is implemented, you need to have security in layers. So having security in layers really is really helpful, and this is the most secure way to implement this kind of solution, because AI is like double-edged sword. On the one hand, it can really identify risks that are unknown or were not seen by human team. But on the other hand, if it is not used as it should, users' privacy, companies' privacy, company confidential data can be at risk. Of course, it really depends on also, on top of that, on what type of model is being used, whether it is a public model or is it on-prem model. Because of course, if we're talking about on-prem models, there are also risks there, but relatively less amount of risks compared to a remote model, because when we are talking about remote models, you can't know, you don't have control over the data. And so this is something also like something to keep in mind.
Sure. No, it absolutely makes sense. Is it? I love that you're on, because this is something that is like I said, top of mind. I think a lot of enterprises, big and small, have to grapple with this. And there's the sense that, oh, wow, it's coming. Some of it's already here, and there's really not a lot of time to waste. There's some in the field that are taking the reports on Mythos as, oh, that's just Anthropic doing good marketing. I'm not going to lie, I thought that a little bit, but then I started hearing from more and more colleagues, no one violated an NDA. I have a lawyer on here. No one violated an NDA, but it was, hey, is it as bad as they say? Blink twice, right? Like, and then they would blink, and then, okay. So, and more that you hear, right? Fable came out, and then it was pulled back. There's, all that mess. Is it, in your experience, because this is one place that I haven't been able to pin down like a hard answer. So I hope Dan, that you'll do me a solid. Is it, as you said, consistency and just like relentless ability to multi-threaded go nuts with the attacks 24/7 at a high level, where a human-based team would eventually need to eat and sleep and maybe drink some coffee, or if they start down the wrong path, that's going to, like you said, it's going to waste their time on the engagement. Is it that, or have you started seeing novel attacks based off of these tools? Because I keep getting like different answers from folks, and inquiring minds want to know. I definitely want to, like, is it like, what are we seeing so far?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that likewise, I mean, originally I thought it was only a marketing move, but then I started hearing more and more about it, and started also being exposed to research that was conducted by these models.
Mhm.
And I've seen a lot of impressive work, but something was still lacking. And I found out that AI can perform complex reasoning on different flaws, different business-related context, but at scale, there is something that cannot be fully accomplished by AI compared to human judgment. For instance, there were I saw the model in action, and not the one that you talked about, but one that was developed for this use case. I mean,
Mhm.
identifying novel attacks in different components, web, mobile, and so on. And as part of the benchmarking, I've noticed that the results that the human team accomplished was better in terms of picking vulnerabilities and creating some kind of an attack chain
Mm.
from these vulnerabilities, while the AI was not able to have not a consistent, but to present some kind of a story, meaning that using vulnerability X and vulnerability Y, it is possible to do this and that. So this is something that was lacking. I mean, AI is highly capable to do what I just described, but in this security like domain, and having to reason about a lot of many like vectors, many flaws, many user journeys in different applications, and building some kind of a story, building some kind of a chain. I've seen better results in research that was conducted by humans, by security teams, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, of course, I guess there are models that do a better job there and are highly capable of identifying novel attacks.
Mhm.
In the end, it's just how you decide to implement it. And if you do a good job, so good for you. And I mean, a product that I'm currently working on is something truly amazing, because it uses exploration engine that triggers a lot of agents to explore the application, whether it is mobile or web, and acts as a like blend and flash human that triggers, presses, clicks different elements of the interface of the application in order to trigger as many traffic to the server. And after understanding the behavior of the request and the behavior of the web application and what it's all about, its essence, so my agents know how to create some kind of a story. The thing that I told you earlier that was lacking in the model that I've seen in action. So my agents are capable to come up with a story with a chain of vulnerabilities that are evidence-based and not something that is potential, something that is theoretical. They manage to pick several vulnerabilities, tie them together, and say with certain level of confidence, this attack is possible, of course, with evidence and everything. But in my eyes, the biggest pain point, and some would say number one reason for hair loss among CISOs is access control, because access control is something that is very time consuming. And when you have a web application or a mobile application with many roles, and you need to determine what type of actions should not be accomplished. For instance, a low privilege user that is accessing a high privilege user's resource or doing a high admin's action, for instance, in order to test all of the variations. And access control is a primary challenge that keeps a lot of people awake at night, usually executives, because this is something that is interesting for them, whether their user flows, their workflows are broken, or someone can take advantage of these to leak data, to do, malicious things with it.
You mentioned, I wanted to really highlight, you mentioned a piece of this that I can tell then, product market fit, you're in the space, you're listening to your users, you're listening to your audience, because the one aspect that CISOs I talk to go, okay, these tools, yes, they're pretty cool. They can spray, right? And then they come back and they bring you, look at all these vulnerabilities. The ones that matter to the CISOs, to the business decision makers, are the ones, as you're saying, you can tell a story. You can go, this makes sense based on what our users would do. There's a logic behind this. This isn't just, you checked every door and here's the doors that are like maybe somewhat open or somewhat weaker. You go, this would be feasible. This is gonna happen if you don't address these, because they're risky and they're also in common areas that our users access, common workflows that are demanded of the web application. That joining of real feasibility or real possibility, right? Not just that it's technically feasible, but like this is actually something that would happen because a user would be here or a workflow would trigger this, versus this is all that can possibly happen because we can just throw AI at it. That is something that's not nothing, Dan. Like that is a serious aspect to what you just crafted that shows your stuff, you're listening to your audience, and you're trying to really solve a problem that like actually exists versus making one up and then selling a product. Like because all I did was hear my CISO go, yeah, those tools are great, but that's just like fairy tale make believe. Show me in the context of my environment what actually would be feasible. Then that's what I'm going to care about. I want to talk to Dan, right, to remediate this stuff.
Right, definitely. So, executives care about things that affect their business. So when you have, following what you just said, this is also true for scoring vulnerabilities, scoring
Yep.
findings, because a lot of times back in the day when I oversaw engagements and security assessments, I've seen a lot of scenarios where CISOs or security executive had a debate.
Is that a 10? Why is it a 10? It's a 10 out
Right.
there. Is it a 10 for me?
Right.
Definitely.
Right? Or is this a 7 that's publicly facing? That matters. I don't care that it's not a crit. right? This might be a 5, but how many users are going to be affected? And is this a publicly facing, item? Dan, man, you've done this work, my friend. I could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, the scoring system, the CVSS that we all know is very cold. It's called dry, like a scoring system, and it doesn't always tell you about the business, about the real tailored risk level for your business. So having AI reason about the business potential risks and tweaking the score accordingly means a lot to the other side that gets these findings, gets these vulnerabilities, because these scoring, I mean, are now adjusted for that business, for that organization.
And then the
So this
business
is also
knows,
something very.
and then the business like gets help with, Dan, what do I have to care about? For my
Definitely.
business, for my environment, I only have, a 3-person blue team, right? What do I have to send them on? You don't give me a list of 25 things that I could have just looked up their CVSS score, right? And sadly, you and I both know, like, and Alyson, you've seen this too. Like, sometimes you'll get a pen testing engagement and they'll be like, here, this is a list of okay, cool. You did a vuln scan. You put the CVSS score next to it. I could have done that, right, on a Saturday having coffee. Like, you tell me the top 5 things that I need to worry about, or that, like, I'll get fired if the board finds out that I didn't address these. Give me the business context. And I think that's why it's a business decision maker. It's business intelligence. You're marrying that, like, what matters to the business with the hard security, which I think, Dan, that opens up a lot of doors. Like, you're solving problems for the business. You're not just coming in going, here's some awesome technology. It sounds like pretty, I know you can't say it all, right? Because you're still cooking, but like, it sounds pretty neat, but you're also joining it with business importance. That's the key.
Yeah, I can say that I had some bad experience with different solutions in the last couple of years. That I've seen a lot of platforms out there that most of them were pretty like they use deterministic solutions to identify vulnerabilities, because of course before the AI era emerged, most of the scanners, most of the platform out there didn't have the capability to reason. So they use deterministic solutions. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't see, I just, like, in the end saw a very big list of vulnerabilities that I guess 80 or 90% of them are really, really not relevant at all to the organization, because the pattern caught something, but that particular quote unquote vulnerability that was flagged cannot be ever triggered. So in the end, whatever, like, the primary thing here is to raise a flag nowadays on the most, like, the relevant things that the business care about, and only on the vulnerabilities that can be triggered. And fortunately, we have AI here that can do the job and can really highlight and identify a lot of real threats. Again, having said that, you need to know how to implement it with the right defense and the right guardrails. And this also takes a lot of time, and you need to really understand how you do it, because you don't want to end up having a product which is like house of cards and very shaky, unstable, and without any good security. So in terms of where the industry is going, so I talked about deterministic scanners, and I mean, AI is not only used for just let's find vulnerabilities, let's identify risks. AI in the context of web applications, mobile applications, and so on is all about understanding the application, the underlying mechanisms, underlying engines, and reason about the different threats, the different journeys that can be misused by adversary. And this is the main, I think, this is the importance here of having AI in today's solutions, integrated into today's solution. Humans, still, security teams should be should have judgment, should monitor the results of the AI, And we are not there yet in terms of letting the AI just go wild and identify risks and findings without any sort of limitation. We haven't reached a good maturity level that the organization will feel comfortable letting AI do it. So people still need to go over the results, to approve, to monitor, to supervise. And this is the most important thing here, I think, because I've seen a lot of implementations of AI being misused in a way that, like, the developers, the business wanted to create something extraordinary, innovative, and in a way they managed to do it. But in parallel, everything that the AI processed was not anonymized. Confidential data, business-related data,
Oh no.
PII, PHI, just, flowed into the remote model, and now it's not even in a shape of like a raw data out there. It's part of the training data of the models that are being used by Google and other companies, and people's privacy, organizational confidential data will just now who knows where is it, so, and how it is being used. So there are good intentions out there, and but sometimes you need to also have different layers of defense, such as guardrails, such as anonymization, to make sure that you are not harming anyone or anything. And this is one big takeaway that I reached.
I love, and Alyson, I'll kick it over to you because I feel like I've been hogging Dan because I'm asking him questions that I'm going to go back to my CISO tomorrow and say, listen, I talked to an expert. All right, man. And here's, I got some stuff. I'm going right back because like today we're talking about like what the heck agentic or what the heck agency means. Right. And then I thought, oh no, my philosophy degree is finally mattering. Right. Like it finally matters. This thing that that my parents were very sad that I got. They were very worried that I wouldn't eat. I'm going to text my mother and be like, listen, that paper I did when I was 18 on agency finally has a reason. But, so we'll pivot from there. But what I love to hear is that you're in this space, you're building a platform, you're very gung-ho, obviously, about the technology. It's your bread and butter. It's what you're building. But it's odd to hear from you in a good way, Dan. Hey, there should be guardrails. Hey, like it might not be great to just ingest all the data you can and train on it, and then we'll figure out the consequences later. What like led to that? Because I don't normally hear from folks on the frontier of this space of building hard body tools with AI go, there should be guardrails, right? Usually, especially in the States, right? Like maybe I'm biased because all I hear from tech folks in the States are just go, go, go. We'll figure it out later. No guardrails. Let's go wild. Where did your sense of like good governance come from? Like was it just something you had while you were in the space, or did you see something go sideways and you said, I don't want to do that? How did that come about?
So now that I'm thinking of it, the idea of having AI integrated into your application means that now there is a whole new attack surface that is open. As you know, OWASP top 10 for web application is something that is it's pretty known. It's been out there for a lot of, like, I think over 10 years. But OWASP top 10 for LLM is something pretty new, relatively new, that tells you a lot about the LLM related risks and things that you should avoid when you develop or integrate AI into your processes. And so if you don't follow this process, it can lead to a catastrophe, because we talked about vulnerabilities, findings, and so on. So if someone uses a system and an application that behind the scene there is a tree of prompts or a system of prompts that is being used, but without any defense, any security in mind. So someone can interact or trigger different actions that no one intended them to happen when they design the systems. But using, again, without any security in mind, prompts can be not strong enough not hardened, and things can slip in and cause a lot of harm, whether an AI does something that it shouldn't, or data is being uploaded and sent to a remote model. So, I mean, it's something that I have to think of. I mean, maybe as you said, I mean, it wasn't natural for you to hear it, but I think it's part of security, because when you implement a solution AI-based to identify vulnerabilities in application, and you do it perfectly, that's amazing. But you don't want also in parallel to compromise other things or compromise the privacy of users. So we need to do it responsibly. It's part of the game.
Awesome. Alyson, I don't know if we've ever had a guest on here. Usually it's one or the other, right? Like a lot of folks are very pro governance, and then we have to slow down. Or I think that's also when you see governance structures like what's happening in the EU, what's not happening in the US. I think you're sold a narrative of either or. And it's so refreshing, Dan, to hear, hey, that's just part of the game. It's a part of a complete solution. Man, like, I know you know this, and I don't want to kind of tell you how to, but like, that's a line that anyone in a regulated industry that you might be selling into is going to love hearing, right? Like automatically, where it's like, okay, this thing is a powerful tool, but it's not like a bazooka. It's a sniper rifle, right? Like it is a very surgical, it does what it needs to do, keeps everything else safe around it. And we can stand by it. Still as effective. You can be quite as effective. So man, it's refreshing to hear, because I was starting to get worried that like I either had to, bring in AI powered nukes, right? Just to find vulnerability or like, no, just
you don't
leave the
need
door
dynamite
open.
to go fishing, Omar.
Listen, I mean, that's the only way. Who has the patience to put the little worms on the hooks? Not me. All right. Just give me some grenades and I'll get you some dinner. Like we'll figure
Fish
it
in a
out.
barrel. It's all good.
Why
They're
not?
just
Exactly.
everywhere.
Right.
Oh.
But Dan, that's awesome to hear. And then, it's just so doing it responsibly, right? Like it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, it's proof that it can be done, right? Like in a measured, deliberate way, it hasn't stymied his innovation to create something that's necessary, but also not create a product that is going to create more vulnerabilities than it's designed to look for, right? As part of the process. And so it's that balance. And it sounds like that's definitely been part of this process for you.
Yeah, definitely. And also having like redundant amount of security controls, it's not a bad word. I mean, sometimes having redundant amount of controls and more layers than you should, then as fallbacks, of course, it's something that in the long run can be super beneficial, because if certain control missed something, you have like another one in action that will catch it, hopefully. So you need to really implement it with security in mind. And usually people that build these kind of security solutions don't have the privilege to think about all of these things later on. They need to think about it when they design the system, that design the architecture, because it can affect the architecture if you will implement it later instead of in the beginning, or think about it at least. So it will affect the entire system. So you need to really reach the ideation phase with these answers.
I think we agree with that. You have to. I've used this example before, right? Like once the toothpaste is out of the tube, getting it back in is just not going to happen. And so it's very messy, and most of it stays out and on your hands and on your clothes and on the floor and your counters, because we've all been there. But
that sounded very specific, Alyson. That's like a very
very specific,
right? She had.
You know what? If you've ever had a toddler, you've walked in and you've seen it everywhere, and you just wait when she starts brushing her own teeth.
No,
you're gonna have glitter toothpaste everywhere.
It's already happening, and it's like I hate. This is a side note, but like that Elmo song telling them how to brush their teeth, it tells them how to spit at the end. But if she's not at the sink when she gets to that part of the song, it's like defusing a bomb. It's just like, oh no, it's like that there's like 6 seconds left. You're like, no, Rory, get to the sink. Let's go. Because she's just like, and no, Mama, what are you doing?
It's okay. We listen, but we don't judge.
Exactly. And if we all did more of that in life, we'd be better off. Listen, but don't judge.
Trust me.
There you go.
Trust
Lesson
me.
of the day.
Yeah, but it's
And build your safety from the beginning, right? Put your infrastructure
building it
in
in.
as opposed to trying to undo it, and you make it part of the model as you're building it. Because as Dan pointed out, trying to do it afterwards and undo it, it affects the entire infrastructure. So, and then you have a kid spitting toothpaste everywhere.
Listen, that's going to stay with me. Is this, Dan, like another question or another maybe false argument that I've heard in this space is, okay, you can do all this great designing, Dan, and you can build it all in if you have a new organization or if you have a new enterprise. But if we're an established organization and there's a lot of tech debt and there's a lot of bad processes, there's no way we can bring in a tool like this because, building in, it's not going to be governed well because like our processes are too bloated or I don't think that's the case. Like, I think what you're probably proposing is modular, but like, what do you say to folks that kind of present that as well, we would go with you, Dan, but this is almost too advanced for our old organization?
I would say that this solution, the beauty of it is it is an adaptive solution. It can adapt according to the application that is under the unit under test, whether it is an application that is super like complex, super dynamic, super old, super like contains a lot of legacy types of functionality, or whether it is like state of the art, something super new that uses all of the newest technologies out there. So the beauty of this is that it will always be something that will be relevant because it will adapt, it will learn the different types of processes, functionality, user journeys, tech stack, and it will reason on this information and data and reach several conclusions, such as there are multiple risks here because this and that, or we emptied the well and nothing else is here in terms of risk. So it varies, but my answer I think will not be different or for like between different types of people or organizations that will raise this concern.
Makes sense. No, it's kind of what I figured because, as you mentioned, and I'm going back over some of the things you said because I think they merit good highlighting. You mentioned the difference between the OWASP top 10 and the LLM top 10, which is a nuance that bears like, let's foot stomp it. Let's really talk about it, right? Or at least bring it back up and highlight it because but you're talking about web applications, Dan. Wait a second. Like, is there really, but no, there are differences. There's reason, and it's understanding where one begins and one ends. That is probably what's guiding you making a solution that can do what you said, which is we can work on new applications. We can work on big tech debt, monolithic, huge behemoths, and we can still give you prioritize risk that helps you make a business decision, which is honestly, man, like, again, I don't know if it's because it's budget season and I've sat in front of a lot of vendor pitches lately, but it's cool to hear that this type of nuanced solutioning, right, is being developed now and not, like a myth in the future. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Right, definitely. I mean, it can be confusing for some people that I mean, we talk about we're talking about two types of methodologies, of two types of security I don't know, playbooks or yeah. So, but when you make a decision and integrate an AI assisted functionality into your web application, so now you are being also exposed to a potential attack surface that is part of the OWASP top 10 for LLM. So can't escape from that. And you need also to take into account certain risks that are now affecting you that didn't affect you beforehand. I mean, but this domain is crazy because I've seen a lot of web applications that were so vulnerable that allowed attackers. It allows us as a pen test team to get access to the infrastructure behind the scene, to the underlying server. There are also risks now that are on the infrastructure level.
Mhm.
So having a web application doesn't necessarily mean that the only thing that should keep you up at night, awake at night, is that OWASP top 10 for web application. There is a lot to it.
No, this is it's really where, like you said, where the infrastructure ends and where the web presence or the web front end begins is something that, as I'm sure a lot of IT OT is the folks in that space are facing a lot of, well, wait a second, what are we secure? How do we secure it? What are the frameworks? So I think you're touching on some of the questions that need to be put in front of people, in front of decision makers, and go, where are we making our lines in the sand, and what are we going to do? What can we protect? What are we going to focus on? Right? Because a lot of times that's really, as you said, defense in depth and the layers. How many layers are we going to put on? What's it going to cost? What's important? What's not? Dan, it's, again, I can't stress this enough. The type of thinking and the type of nuance that you're showing, right? That you came ready with the heat today. It really makes me. I'm going to keep an eye on when you come out of South when you put your stuff out there, because I think your voice and your approach to solving these problems is something that I think the industry needs. I genuinely mean that. I want to be mindful of your time. Is there any last thoughts, any parting words of wisdom you want to give the listeners?
So first of all, thank you. And I think that one more thing I want to say is that organizations out there and also individuals should be aware of the things that they do in the digital landscape. And now that AI is part of the game, I mean, it's kind of all news, but you need to be super aware and understand that everything you do now has like more consequences than before, and you need to understand exactly what is the consequences and avoid them by applying as many defenses and applying as many guardrails in order to not be affected, not be compromised, and to keep your privacy to yourself and make sure that nothing bad happens.
It's and you're talking the language of defense in depth, right? Not a lot of folks in the vendor space would go, listen, this is part of an ecosystem. They would try to say, I have the one solution. You need nothing else. This is just it. But you've kept talking about this is part of a stack. This is where we fit. Don't forget the rest. And then you're asking big time governance questions, which, for Alyson and myself, right, on the governance side of things, like, this is great questions to be asking. Dan, phenomenal discussion. Hope to have you back on again, of course. Once you get the stuff out there and you want to come back and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm seeing, out in the wild, right? Like through my travels. Thank you again. Thank you for the time. And to all the listeners, of course, we bring you these guests so that you can, in fact, keep it cyber metal. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.